So yeah, I'm always interested in people from different backgrounds, but what I don't have is an understanding of how to actually go about the conversation quite well. So like people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, I don't know how to ask them questions that isn't insulting. Then people do get. I'm quite honest and very blunt a lot of the time, so people can get pissed off. So
I'm the same.
if I do piss you off in this conversation, I can only apologize.
I honestly don't think it's possible.
Good. So, well, no one can offend me either. I'm very, very, very chilled out with stuff. I guess.
Like
So-
unless you say something like death to gay people or like anything like that, I'm like
I'll make a note of not to say
I
death to
enjoy-
gay people.
but you know what I mean, like, or like I think that's a bit wrong, like anything
Yeah.
like that. But like, even if I don't know, I enjoy having those sorts of conversations. I enjoy because you see people's minds opening up when you have that conversation with
Oh,
someone
that
who's
must be
never
nice.
had that conversation, and it is really nice. Like it is like
No, I can see that the kind of appeal of that. So okay, so when did you know that you were gay? Did you always know, or was there a moment?
there wasn't a moment.
No.
And I'd be surprised if many people, if anyone, would say that they had a moment. Like it's like. So when I was in primary school, a bit of an embarrassing fact. Like I used to like chase. I was always friends with girls, but like my best friends were guys.
Okay.
But I thought the done thing was like to be into girls. So like I wasn't into girls, but I'd be like, oh, I like this girl, so I'm gonna like. I used to chase girls around when I was like 6.
When you say chase them around, you mean physically chase them, or
Yeah, like like I want to kiss you. Like,
right, got you.
Like,
Yes, like yeah.
I didn't really like, or maybe I did, but it was never like a sexual thing because at that age you're not sexual. Like you're 6 or 7, like it's
Yeah.
just like you're supposed to be into girls. So like I would do all that sort of stuff. So there was never really a moment like where I realized that I was gay. I don't know. It's hard to think back. It was from a young age that I kind of knew though.
See, I remember
Like 8 or 9, I think I kind of knew.
So obviously, when you're like very young, you don't really. I think your initial stance is, "Oh, girls are icky."
Yeah.
When you're very young,
Yeah.
oh no, I don't want to kiss a girl, and people tease you about, oh, this girl in your class, and you're like, no, I don't like girls.
Yeah,
Screw
fuck
you.
girls.
Yeah. And then there was this moment where I was watching a television program, and there was a slightly, I mean, it's very PG now. If I was looking back at it, but it was a slightly raunchy scene. I'm like,
Yeah,
whoa, what is that?
That's caused a stir.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then from then on, I was like, bam, I need to find out more about what this stuff's
Do you know, actually, if we're talking about that sort of moment, like there was the Robbie Williams video for Rock DJ,
Oh yes.
and he gets naked and then his skin comes off, like, but I remember the moment where he got naked that like there was a stir, like there was like a,
Oh really?
Yeah.
And what did you feel? What did you think?
I don't remember thinking anything. I just remember that was how I felt.
That's cool. And then okay, so how old were you when you knew that you were gay? And how did,
8 or 9,
so very 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 early on,
younger than a lot of people, I think.
younger than puberty hits, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did you manage that whole process? Or what did you just kind of not really think about it? Just kind of.
I think it was like going into secondary school where I realised it wasn't like. I mean, I never told anyone about it. I think you always know that you it's not something that you tell people. Like
Okay.
it's not something that's widely accepted. It's you don't see it in the TV as normal, so you think there's something in the back of your head where it's like that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
So like you just keep it to yourself because when you're that age, it's all about being cool or being normal and being accepted.
12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, they're all very very insecure. They're just trying to do everything to kind of.
But I think it was going into secondary school where I realised it was like not accepted because like the main insult of the day was you're gay, or that's gay,
Yeah.
and you know that guys liking guys is gay, so it's like keep it silent. Like
You felt pressure to kind of keep it silent, or was it not necessarily pressure, but you?
it's societal pressure. It wasn't
Yeah.
like anyone was putting pressure on me to keep it quiet because no one knew.
Yeah.
So it's just societal pressure to keep it to yourself. I think it's less so now from what I've heard from a lot of younger people. Like people are coming out earlier and earlier and it's more accepted generally, but like at that point 11 years ago, I guess, like it was 11, is that right? No, like almost 20 years ago when I was 7. I don't know. But like, don't know the details, but I just remember like it wasn't something that you would tell people.
Yeah. And then when was the moment that you came that you thought you needed to tell people, you needed to act on it? This is something that other people need to know about.
So, like your sort of coming out story, like
kind of, I suppose,
like, it's not. There's not a moment where you come out, like you're coming out for the rest of your life, unless I think unless you're like very effeminate and like super stereotypically gay.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to generalize. It's difficult to say without generalizing, but I'm fairly like. A lot of people meet me and they're kind of surprised by the fact that I'm gay.
Yeah, likewise. I didn't.
Not necessarily surprised, but like just like, oh, I didn't think that. Like
but you yourself and Michael, I suppose, you don't know instantly. Well, I mean, I'm a terrible example because I just,
you've not been around that even at all.
I'm just unaware of
But I remember going into secondary school and it becoming more of a thing where like you have to keep it quiet. So like I went through like pretty much all of secondary school and I was just as much calling people gay and fags and queer, like because when it becomes an issue that you have to hide, the best way to hide it is to be involved in the persecution of it.
Got you. That is interesting. Yeah.
So like I was, and I think a lot of people were the same. Like that I know anyway would go through secondary school and they'd be like, "Oh, that's gay. Oh, you're gay. Oh, you must be gay." Like sort of thing. The first time I came out, I was 16. To my best friend at the time.
You literally sat him down and said,
her
down.
Yeah. And I didn't sit her down. I was on MSN.
So 16. This is 8 years, 7 years after you've kind of realized that. So it's a secret, not a secret, but something you kept to yourself for a long, long time.
Yeah. And that was over MSN,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't say it. Like
wow.
I couldn't type the words like I'm gay. I couldn't say it. I just gave her all the information and made her say it back to me, and I agreed.
What information did you give it?
I can't remember.
But just basically, I think
like I need to tell you something. Like I don't even know if it was like this guy or like whatever. Like it was just like I've got to tell you something, but I can't tell you, and like this is how I feel, and like not necessarily like I fancy this guy or anything. It was just like it's not the norm. It's not. I honestly can't remember the conversation.
And her reaction? Was it like
surprise?
Was it surprise? It wasn't like I know this already and everyone knows that it was surprise and
yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe I was 15. Yeah, it was a good reaction. I've never had a bad reaction.
Really, like, you've never come across anyone that you've told and they've reacted negatively. So that's awesome. Because you hear about people who, and that must be incredibly difficult. But
yeah, of course.
Nice and supportive for you that everyone's been supportive.
Mm-hmm. So I would say the official point where I came out to the world, I was 19. I wrote a post on Tumblr and scheduled it to post to Facebook while I was at work, so I couldn't stop it from posting.
Wow.
So then I posted to Facebook.
So there was that element of like, I might back out of this.
I probably would have if I could have.
I might. That is kind of that trepidation to it. I'm so scared of the consequences. Not the consequences, but you know what I mean. Like, nervous reaction. About. That I'm just gonna do this and then I can't stop it and then it goes.
Well, I would say there was 3 points. Like the 3 main points was like I told my best friend when I was 16
mm-hmm.
over MSN, or she told me and I agreed when I was 16. I told a few more of my best friends over the years between that, but then not long after I told her, we used to write letters to each other. Like we went to the same school and we hung out all the time, but we used to write letters to each other and just pass them over, and she would write a letter back, and I'd half written a letter back to her not long after I told her. I went to work. I worked in Sainsbury's at the time, like part-time while I was at school, and I'd left it on my room floor because I was very messy. I still am a very messy person. Like I left it on my room floor and my mum decided that she'd had enough of my room being a mess and she was going to clean it. So she found it and read this half-written letter, and I got back from work and she's like, I've got something to talk to you about, like come through the living room. And I was like, fuck, like what have I been caught doing? Like what have I done wrong, sort of thing? And she was like, I found this. And I remember just sitting there in silence.
What did you feel when she'd said that? Did you feel you were in trouble, or did you like...
I think it was mostly relief.
Oh right, okay.
Because I'm not that close to my like my parents aren't my friends sort of thing. Like, I don't know at what point I would have told them, but I wouldn't have been.
I got you. So at the back of your mind, you were loathing the future kind of obligation of having to tell them, and this did that for you by accident without any of the trepidation or build up.
So she found the letter, and I was just relieved because I didn't then have to tell her, and she had like phoned my sister and my mum and my dad and told them immediately, like, I found this letter, because she was stressed. Like, I think your mum, or my mum anyway, always had this vision of what my life would be like in the future, and it would be like have a nice wife, have 2 kids, have a nice house and a good job. Like, that was her vision for my future. And obviously that's totally turned upside down on its head.
It's hard for people to let go of certain visions that they've had.
Yeah. So I think we talked about it. I can't remember the conversation. Like, I don't, as you'll be able to tell, I don't have a very good memory of like things like that. But like, I remember we sat and talked about it for ages, and I explained to her, and she was like, "You're sure it's not a phase?" And I was like, "No, like, I know it's not a phase. I've known that I've been gay for like 8 years at this point." Like, and then like I told my friends like throughout the years afterwards. Like, usually I was very drunk when I told them, because it just gives you that Dutch courage, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely, yeah. And they were, as you say, they're all always supportive.
Yeah, always like.
Was everyone shocked? Or not shocked, but like there was an element of surprise. There was no one who was like, "Oh, I kind of knew."
See, it's kind of difficult because so I told my best friend, and it turns out that she had actually told all of them individually.
Right. Okay.
So it never really got to come out to them. They were
that's
all like,
bullshit.
They were all kind of like, "Yeah, I knew," because like she told me.
Were you not annoyed by that? I'd be annoyed.
Very annoyed.
Yeah, I'd be annoyed.
I didn't have any sort of confrontation about it.
If she ever watches this, she gets to know exactly how you felt about it.
She gets to know I don't really talk to her anymore. And it is a shame. Like, I would like to reconnect with her because we were so close.
In her defense, I bet she doesn't even realize how big of a thing it is.
That's
for
it.
someone.
And I've never told her. I've never confronted her about it.
It was just a bit of gossip that she had, and
I just kind of faded my friendship out with her. Which is maybe a bit shitty, but I kind of felt within my rights to do so.
I think you were well within your rights there. I think if you'd had a full-blown argument with her, that's still probably within your rights, because it's a bit of a shitty thing to do.
So the first point was, like, I came out to her. The second point was my mum found the letter, and then my family knew. And then the third point was when I sort of came out to the world, which was through the Tumblr post via Facebook. And all my friends at the time, like, they were like all the metalhead friends that I had, so we went to festivals and stuff together. And none of them were surprised because I was so close with my friend who I'd first came out to, but there was never any sexual relationship there, so I think they were like, he must be gay.
Right, got you. Yeah.
So none of them were surprised, and then I get mixes, like some people are surprised, some people aren't. Like from this point on, I think whenever you start a new job, it's always something I'm wary of. Like, I take a step back from. Like, I won't be like, "Oh, I'm gay." I'll just be like, "Oh, my boyfriend," or
right.
Like,
you're very conscious of that first initial hint.
Always.
But even though you've never had a bad reaction, you've always had positive ones. You're still wary of it.
Yeah.
I mean, in a lot of ways, that's. Sorry if I'm speaking that or saying something I shouldn't hear, but it's a shame that, because there shouldn't be any reason.
Well, it's a societal thing.
Self-conscious of it.
I think it's like it's like in the background, like, I don't know, you just don't know what people's reactions are going to be. Like, you don't know, like, generally people aren't like Westboro Baptist Church style homophobic. Like, they're not like going to try and lynch you or like say anything bad to your face. But there's also just like, you don't want people to react or change the way that they are around you.
Yeah, like, no, I get that, yeah.
So I always try and do it early, but I will gauge the situation. Like, I'll gauge who it is I'm talking to. So there's a young guy in the place that I'm working now, and that's not going to be my store, so I don't really give a shit. But I was like, "Oh, so I've not met this guy. Who is he?" He's like, "Oh, he's the gay one." And I was like, noted. Like, he's young though. Like, he's young, and I think he's just like.
No, but are you noting the fact that he's gay, or are you noting
the
fact
he's
that
not gay.
Someone has said
this guy isn't gay who said that? He just said that about his colleague. I was like, who's Joe?
But that's what I'm asking you. Are you noting the fact that Joe's gay, or are you noting the fact that this guy has said that this guy's gay?
I've noticed that he said it and the way that he said it.
Yeah, got you.
As if like that's the big part of his personality, and I'm like,
she's like an undercover gay at that point. You
a
know,
little bit.
like
I mean,
reconnaissing
everyone else.
what people's attitudes are.
I've worked with this guy for an hour, so like I don't know him, and I don't give a shit if he knows that I'm gay or if I'm not gay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never was like, oh, I'm gay as well. Like I didn't make a deal out of it. I just noted that he said that in that way.
Interesting. Yeah, it's just something to be aware of that. Other people just straight people just probably don't have to, because it doesn't even cross their minds.
Yeah, you don't have to say anything about, like, you just like, oh, that girl's hot, and everyone's like, that's normal.
Yeah.
Or no one's like anything really.
Yeah, it's just a
So it is like it's always an ongoing process for
That's
everyone.
Interesting. That is interesting. So, what was it like meeting your first guy or your first boyfriend, or had this happened before you came out, or?
Everyone I've ever went out with, I've met like online.
Oh really? Okay, all Grindr.
Yeah, well, Grindr-esque sort of situation. So my first boyfriend was through Tumblr.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I was 20.
So that's your first? Oh, sorry. Okay, so that's your first boyfriend.
Yeah.
But before then, had you had any encounters
that's my
with
first
guys?
encounter. Like
That's
my
your
first
first
encounter
guy.
was with
It
my
must have
first
been
boyfriend.
that must have been quite nerve-wracking. I mean, it's nerve-wracking for anyone.
Yeah.
Their first sexual encounter, their first kiss, whatever. But I suppose with guy, like, with what I'm trying to think back to my first kiss and what have you. It happened before I was even aware that I was straight or gay.
Yeah.
So you kind of, that's already happened, and then that's something that's a process as well that you kind of get used to. Oh, this is what it feels like to kiss a girl before you know that you even like kissing girls.
Yeah. I mean, so when I was 15, I had a girlfriend.
Oh really? Okay.
So I'd kiss girls.
Mm.
Like, one of my other best friends in high school, we used to make out all the time because it was fun.
Mm.
But there was never any sort of sexual situation, and I don't even think that she felt there was any sexual situation between us. We were just really good friends, and we really got along, and kissing is fun.
Do you speak to her still?
Let's
go on there, Jack. Carry on.
Not really. Like, I still talk to her occasionally. I see her on nights out, but I've kind of grown apart from quite a lot of my school friends.
Well, that's natural, I suppose.
Like, she moved away to Edinburgh. Like, she was the most alternative person that I ever knew, and she was like a big influence on my music taste, and I just thought she was the coolest person ever. And I still think she's pretty cool, but she did change a lot when she moved away to uni, as I'm sure I did have since then. And every time we do see each other, if like I'm ever on a sort of school reunion night out, we still get along really well.
Oh, just ignore that. That's not supposed to be happening.
Change it! Stop it!
Just keeping you on your toes.
So I forgot what I was saying.
Sorry, yeah, you were talking about your friend that you had your 15, when you were 15 you had a girlfriend that you kissed, but you've lost touch with her.
Like we went out for a week and a half.
Oh right, okay.
At least we were at a school disco, and I lost my VL. Your virgin lips.
Ah.
So like when you have your first kiss like with someone, like and that was at a school disco.
VL, you ever heard of that? No, I've never heard of this.
It must be a Scottish thing.
Must be a Scottish. I like it.
Well, it's just like
too old for me now. But
oh, you lost your VL here. Like
virgin lips.
And then we made out a few times that night, because making out with people's fun. Like,
it is. It's great.
It's just a good time.
Yeah.
So like we made it a few times that night, and she was a nice looking lass, and I think I'd grown into my looks a little bit by that point because I had big teeth before then. So then we were like, oh yeah, we're going out, and every single time we met after that, I was probably the most awkward person on the planet. Didn't know how to act. Like, always had in the back of my mind that I'm gonna have to have sex with this person. I don't know how that's gonna happen.
Yeah, at that point, you know that, like, right? You obviously
I knew before that point, but I just done it so that people didn't know that I was gay.
Do you think you would have had sex with her? Do you think you would?
I wouldn't. I honestly don't think I would have been able to.
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking. Like,
I don't think I would have been able to. I wouldn't have got it up to put it crudely.
Yeah. No,
but then during that week and a half time, like I spilled. She was a dancer, so I spilled Iron Brew all over her dance tights, which are really expensive. And then I called her the wrong name. Yeah, her name was Zoe, and I called her Amy.
Oh, we've all been there. I've done
so
that.
Like literally not long after that, she broke up with me, like via her friend.
That's fine.
And I was like, like so grateful. But then at that point, people in school knew that I'd went out with a girl, so there was like less reason for people to think that I was gay. So that was all good.
Yeah. So what was it like meeting your first fella?
It was fine.
But I mean,
I was nervous before meeting him.
That's
but
what I mean,
was
yeah.
more nervous for the social interaction than I was for the sexual interaction.
did you know you'd ever met anyone then who was gay before then?
What do you mean?
Before you met up with him,
Mhm.
had you met other gay people, gay guys?
Not met them. Like I had friends who had since came out as gay, but like not in any sort of sexual.
No, I just meant like socially, kind of like being. Yeah, that's what I kind of meant.
Yeah, so I had friends in school who were obviously gay, like who were like
Okay.
really camp and sort of effeminate, and
It's from a very small town in Africa, so
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So and were you incredibly nervous before that first interaction?
Yeah, like we'd talked a lot online and we'd like Skyped a lot online, so like I had kind of met him, but it is always slightly different when you're meeting someone in the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him in the flesh, and my mum and dad had went on holiday, so I had the house to myself, so he came and stayed for like a weekend, and everything else was like just felt really natural.
Did
Like
it-
it all went fine.
Go as expected, kind
Yeah.
of thing. That's nice.
It was long distance though. Like he was from Liverpool, and I was from Glasgow. He had been out for longer than me and had sex before, whereas I hadn't had sex before, obviously.
And he was quite understanding, and
Yeah.
that's nice. That's good. Oh,
I
cool.
got good reviews.
That he posted
Yeah.
on Tumblr. No, cool. So, okay, obviously, okay, again, I don't know how to ask this question, but
Just ask the question.
okay. In the gay community, you have tops and bottoms.
And versatile.
Sorry,
Versatile.
what's? Oh, you both.
Both.
So how do you figure out which? So are tops only tops normally, and bottoms only bottoms normally, and then you have versatile, which is in
You
between.
have people. It's like a spectrum.
Okay.
So you've got top on this side of the spectrum, bottom on this side of the spectrum, versatile in the middle, and then
Okay.
you've got everywhere, like every section in between.
Okay. How did you figure out that? What were you in that first one, if you don't mind?
Top.
asking? Okay. Oh, right. So you knew that he was a bottom.
Before that, I'd always imagined that I was a bottom, and then when it came to it, I tried it, and it was uncomfortable, which it always is the first time you do it. And
course,
then
yeah.
then he was like, "Well, I'm not uncomfortable with it, so let's just do it that way." And I was like, "Cool."
So he was both as well.
Yeah.
He was versatile. Was that quite a common thing? I suppose. you
I
just
think
kind of
most people are like
fit the
slightly
mold.
to one side, but I would say even less people are like at the very end of each side.
Okay.
So like you've got like bottom versatile and top versatile, which I think is where most people are.
So when you meet someone now, imagine you're
It's
single
part of the conversation.
initially,
Yeah.
or do you prefer the top or the bottom kind of thing?
Yeah, it'll be part of the conversation.
And if you get two people who are versatile, then that's like
Perfect.
perfect. Because
Yeah.
then, that's cool. Interesting. Learning lots.
And then like I think one of the most interesting things about sort of like gay culture is that like open relationships are kind of prevalent.
This is exactly what I was going to ask you next. Yeah.
So it's like you have a lot of gay people that are like monogamy, like if you're in an open relationship, fuck off. Like they're very sort of anti that sort of situation because it's not normative.
Yeah.
But I think the vast majority of people in gay relationships are open to having sex with other people.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think why most straight people don't have open relationships, and when I've had
Society from birth tells you not to.
maybe, but then there's also some people who will say, oh, it's because the girls won't let you. They'll be really jealous and possessive. Emotions will get in the way of it, and
But that's because they've been taught that if someone doesn't only want to have sex with you, then they don't love you.
oh, maybe because what I was going
Like-
to say was like I would. Me personally, I don't know if I could be in an open relationship. I don't know. I get pretty jealous. I think.
But jealousy is not a positive emotion.
No, it's not. No,
So it's not
I
an
don't
emotion
like
that you
trait.
should
Yeah.
foster. So the only way that you can stop being like that is to work through that emotion, is to really check yourself almost, like is to be like, right, why am I feeling jealous? And it's because you don't trust that person, and it's not necessarily because you don't trust them, but it's because society's told you that if they want to have sex with other people, they must not love you.
Fascinating. So, when was your first open? When was your first open relationship, and did you feel jealousy? And
My last relationship, Yeah, my last relationship, and that was kind of always going to be open because he was a bottom and I'm more bottom.
Okay.
So like there was gonna have to be like I'm bottom versatile, so I'm happy to top. Like I'm fine doing that. Like I get enjoyment out of that.
Yeah.
So I think it was always part of what was going to be our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to get your kick some way, sort of thing.
And he was just a straight up bottom.
Yeah.
So,
But like, there's so many complexities, like from being gay, just because of that dynamic, like the top and bottom dynamic. There's so many complexities.
It's a whole
through
new
relationship
world.
like that.
That's a whole new world that, I mean, imagine, I'm just trying to imagine going in there as a 16-year-old who's already insecure about the place in the world because it's different to the norm.
Yeah.
And then you're going to figure out all these rules that there's no normal kind of route to follow because there isn't a
But
societal
the internet
path.
is a wonderful thing. The internet, and like especially Tumblr, like that was like I spent my life on Tumblr when I was a teenager. Like I was on it constantly, and that was where I like got all my activist sort of roots. Like was anti-racist, anti-misogynist, anti-homophobic. Obviously, like was introduced to like all these different ways to have a relationship because.
So it was like not a go-to guide, but there was a lot of help there to help you manage the pub. Imagine the people that had to do that in like the 50s
Exactly.
and 60s and stuff. That must have been brutal.
And you get a lot of people, and Grindr's obviously like a massive part of a lot of the gay community. Like some people just aren't on it, have never been on it, have never felt the appeal or whatever, but like, and it says on your profile if you're top or bottom, or if you're versatile, or if you're versatile top and versatile bottom, so you can kind of avoid that conversation almost by you look at their profile, and if it says, then you're like, well, this person's not suitable for me because they're